We're live. All right. Hello, everyone. We're almost on time. How nice. We're getting better every time. Welcome to another meetup this year. Today at the Diele, a super beautiful co-working space. Feel free in the breaks also to walk around a little and check it out. Today it's all about teaching to code. But first of all, who is the first time at a Social Developers Club event? Oh, nice. Almost half, I would say. Okay, this is us. But we're a couple more people, and we do a lot of meetups. Right now, around every month, 1 or 2 meetups. And yeah, maybe I click a little. And yeah, we're all about making tech more fun and more diverse. And yeah, we just love to include everyone and making diversity in this industry a little nicer by just including more people rather than excluding anyone. So this is all the points we focus on. And the hardest, I know, is the programming languages. So please don't talk bad about any tech stack or languages. We're all here to learn. And so yeah, I'm so glad you're all here today. Yeah, we do meetups, but we also do conferences. I'll tell you more about this soon. And also workshops, mainly for kids and young adults. But this is what the Social Developers Club is about. It's a network for techies, and everyone can actually join. There's no membership or anything. But if you have ideas how to support the communities, please let us know. Yeah, it's also about getting to know new people and building a network. So we thought of the Pac-Man circle for our events. Who knows Pac-Man? Anyone not know? Okay. So you all know how the Pac-Man always has an open mouth, or most of the time. And this is what we want to see too from you when you stand around in circles and network and talk to each other. Please always make sure that there's room for another person to join all the time. Yes. Now the conference. Next week is our annual conference. It's at St. Pauli at the Median Bunker. Probably you've seen it. It's now a little green. They have now plants on the bunker. It's pretty nice, and it's just a whole day of basically what we're doing right now, learning new things, getting to know new people, and just hang out with each other, have a good time. So if you want to join, there's a couple of open spots left for the conference. And you even get a little discount with the white paper codes on the table if you haven't gotten your ticket already. So this is next week on Saturday. I know it's the weekend, but it's also a cool activity for the weekend. And, oh, I forgot one slide. We're going to take pictures today. So this is also when you want to share pictures you take by yourself. But if you don't want to be on the pictures, that's totally fine. Teresa was so nice, and yeah, you all probably have very close sticker here. Do you want to say something about these stickers?
Yes. So there are these stickers on the table, and if you don't want to be on pictures, you can put the sticker somewhere where we can see it, so we know that we don't take a picture of you.
Yes. Otherwise, we would just walk around, take some pictures, and also we have a live stream running today, which is nice, so more people from everywhere can join. So if you walk past here, you'll probably also be on the live stream. Mm-hmm. And this is from my side. If you have questions about the network or the events we do, please feel free to talk to me in the breaks. And no farther than this, I want to introduce you to Teresa now, who's the founder of Hamburg Coding School. And not only founder, but also a techie like us. She's a developer, and yeah, she really knows how to teach code as well. So this is what we learned from her today. Thank you for being here today and having us. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with my talk, how to teach tech. Give me 1 second to bring up the slides. All right, so this goes here. Now, All right. So, how to teach tech? Who of you has ever onboarded a new colleague? And who of you helped their kids with their homework? Who of you ever helped their parents with the question with their smartphone? Nice. So basically, you all have been teaching at some point. And if you have been in a teaching position, you might remember that's actually not an easy thing to do. And also, if you have been in a student position, you might remember there were really good teachers, there were particularly bad teachers as well. So today is all about how do we do it so that we are a good teacher. When I studied computer science, I needed to take the class, the calculus, and calculus was taught by an older professor, Professor G, I call him. And Professor G was always very enthusiastic about the math. And for me, it felt quite like this, because he would write all these formula on the blackboard with chalk, actual chalk, and we needed to write down in our notebook what he was writing and try to understand. And he was super quick and super happy, because apparently from this, then you can see follows this. Nobody of us could see. And this exam, I failed very badly. So I got the worst grade there was. So I had to retake it 1 year after. And when I took it the next time, the assistant teacher of Professor G, who was doing the exercise, he retired, and the professor hired a new assistant teacher, and that was Frau Müller. This one is not Frau Müller, this is Taraji P. Henson in the movie Hidden Figures. But the math we were learning was similar to this. So a lot of formula and calculating the vectors, stuff like this. And in contrast to the professor, Frau Müller really followed a nice methodology. So she would explain the problem to us, she shows us the method, how to solve it, and then she gives us exercises where we need to apply the method that we just learned. And it was really clear to us, and we could actually understand. And this time, just 1 year later, when I redid the exam, I got a 1.4, which is in the American system the A-. So this is just by the differences in the teaching styles. So why can teaching be so much different? When I founded Hamburg Coding School, one of the reasons was that we had really bad teaching sometimes at university, and I was really curious about how can I be a good teacher and teach programming to people in a way that they understand it really well. And there is one thing I came across every time I looked into this, and this is called the expert blind spot. So apparently, as soon as you know a great deal about something, as soon as you are an expert, you start having a blind spot. And this blind spot is in knowing what the other person knows. So you have this, so it's a phenomenon with software developers. You have these senior software developers, the system architects, and they are sometimes really hard to understand because when they start explaining something, they use all these words, all this terminology, and you stop being able to follow them. And the expert blind spot is like when you can't see that the person you talk to doesn't understand. So if for you it's completely clear, but for the student it's not. In this talk, I'm gonna show you some methods, what you can do if you want to teach to avoid this blind spot or to work around it. And especially in computer science or in programming, one thing you can do is to avoid acronyms. So we are not learning JS, we are learning JavaScript. We are not learning TS, we are learning TypeScript. And we are not doing OOP, we are doing object-oriented programming. And it's really important to at least explain acronyms because it gives a level of uncertainty to the student if you use acronyms a lot. Even though they might know the meaning, it makes it harder for them to follow. So if you just use the longer word and if you bring in a new term, you explain it once. In my classes, when I teach and I introduce a new acronym, I usually write it on the whiteboard and write next to it what it means, what the letters stand for. And the same goes for terms. So, for example, in the course program at Hamburg Coding School, in the very first session, we teach how the internet works. And one of the first things is that we explain how a message gets from the client to the server. And we explain it by first explaining what a client is. A client is, for example, your mobile phone or an app on your mobile phone, the web browser on your laptop, and so on. It's what the user uses. And on the other hand, a server is a computer somewhere in a data center where all the data is stored in a database and where the website content is located. And even though these terms, client and server, are really simple, are really trivial, it helps the students a lot to once have it explained what you are talking about, because then they know, okay, so my feeling what this might be is right. And also for explaining things again, if you teach for the first time, explaining things again or explaining things that seem very trivial to you might give you the feeling that you are boring. Maybe you are boring them, they already know it. But actually the opposite is the case. So if you're in the position that you're listening to a person, it's actually really nice if you hear them say something and you realize, okay, I already know this. So this is actually a nice feeling for the student. At Hamburg Coding School, we have a teacher. His name is Helder. He's the most experienced teacher that we have, and he is brilliant at teaching. He's really awesome. If you sit in class, it's really fun. students understand everything, and the students all love him. But Helder has one major blind spot. And the blind spot is, if I ask him, okay, Helder, what do you do? Why is your teaching so great? Can you teach me how to teach? He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's very intuitive for him, and it comes from a lot of experience. But lucky for you, I'm not such a natural in teaching. So I had to really learn these things, like how do I become a good teacher, and now I can teach it to you. And one of the things that Helder does really well is he follows a really clear structure. So if you sit in his class, it feels always like really clear, and you know, okay, we're gonna do this, we get this exercise, then we do that. It feels really natural and really nice. And this structure, you can break it down in 3 things what you do when you teach. So for one topic that you teach, the introduction will be, you explain the problem. For example, in CSS. We want to make that our website that we build can show a light theme and a dark theme, so that it turns dark when we want to switch it to dark, and light during the day, dark during the night. How do we do this? This is the problem. You explain the solution as the second thing. And the explanation then is usually the larger part. And the explanation will be, in this example, there is a CSS property color scheme that you can use to do the dark theme, light theme thing. And you show the details then, of course. And once you did this, you summarize. You tell them, we were looking at how to do the dark theme, light theme thing, and we just looked at the CSS property color scheme and implemented this in our website. So from this slide we learned, having a clear structure is really important. And you always follow the structure of, first you show the problem, then you explain the solution, how it works, and in the end you summarize it. What I just did with this slide.
Yes.
One other thing that is super important and that goes along with the clear structure is simple language. And using simple language is actually really hard. For me, it's hard because I'm one of these people, I'm not a natural at speaking, even though I'm doing it now. I'm better at writing. And when I write, I use really long sentences and I can use words, but as soon as I start speaking, it gets a bit harder. And I'm very lucky. I have an aunt who's retired, and her job before was she was teaching speaking to students of a university of music. So these students learned from her like how to do stage presence, how to recite poems, and how to do moderation on the stage, basically. And she could give me some really nice tips on how to use clear and simple language. And one of the tips I got from her was use really simple sentences. And it's not only for me, because I need to speak and speaking in simple sentences is easier, but it's also for the people who listen. For people who listen, it's easier to listen to simple sentences than to complicated sentences. And the most simple structure of a sentence, both in English and in German, is subject, verb, object. The parrot speaks a word. The cow eats grass. Teresa is teaching a class. So that's a very simple sentence, right? And the simpler, the better. And my aunt used to say, if you speak or teach, you go simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence. Maybe then a little longer sentence that explains a bit more. Simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence. And this is actually really hard, I feel, even when I'm standing here now to speak in simple sentences. But you can practice this. And my aunt told me to practice with some exercises that are there. And one of the exercises that I do to practice using simple language is I use the memo app, the voice memo app on my phone, and I record myself. For example, when I'm done with work, I do a little captain's log, like in Star Trek, right? So I summarize what happened during the day and what I did, what my colleagues did. And then I listen to it and I realize, okay, maybe I could have said this better, or not saying am, but doing a break in between is actually better at this point. If you do a podcast or you vlog, like if this is one of your activities that you do, then this is even better because, you really need to practice and you see yourself regularly, you listen to yourself on a regular basis. And then, like if you have terms that we need to explain, there's one trick that you can use. This is the kinda like explanation. For example, ChatGPT is kinda like an advanced chatbot. It's kinda like the computer in Star Trek that I can chat with and it gives me information about something. Pick your students up where they are. So this has to do with the expert blind spot, right? So if we are an expert, it's hard for us to put ourselves in the students' shoes. So what we do is we should assume that our students don't have the knowledge that we have. And one trick that you can do to do this is you speak to them like they are children. I thought this exercise is weird, but when I was teaching and I was using this technique, I realized I speak a very simple language and I explain a lot and I don't go into a lot of detail, and the students are really able to follow really well. There's even this explain it like I'm 5 or Ellie 5. You can actually use it to Google something on Reddit. There are a lot of threads where people explain complicated stuff like astrophysics in really simple words that a 5-year-old can understand. So that's an awesome technique. And tune into your students. So if you teach someone, you look at their faces And usually the rule of thumb is if their faces are expressionless, if they look at you without an expression, they probably did not understand. If they smile or not, they probably did. And from my previous example, Frau Müller, she actually did this. So in her class, she was showing us a new method, a new thing, like how to solve a problem. And then she was looking into the class and asked, did everyone understand? And we were like, and she was like, okay, then I'm gonna explain it again. And she explained it again, which was awesome. Learning is an emotional process. So this is actually about the neuroscience behind learning. If you read about the psychology and the neuroscience behind learning, then you will see that learning works with dopamine. So if you have a moment of success, if something worked and you're successful and you're happy about it, your brain gives you dopamine, it feels good, and this is like shaping the structure of your brain cells and your learning. On the other hand, if you feel bad, if you're anxious or you feel uncomfortable in class and there is cortisol or adrenaline in your brain, so if you're stressed in some way, if you feel bad, then this is kind of shutting your prefrontal cortex down. This, like in the extreme, it is putting you in a fight or flight or freeze response, and you're basically not learning a thing. So it's super important that in a classroom or in a learning situation that your students feel comfortable and they have this moment of success where they actually learn. So yeah, always be kind, see that you create a really nice atmosphere, use humor to do that. Yeah, and keep them engaged. And I learned one thing from another trainer of ours. His name is Pedro. That is to include students in examples. For example, if in my example, Julia is the main character and does something, she now will pay very close attention to what I'm saying. This is about the teaching methods that we are using. Basically, there are 3 teaching methods. There is telling. I'm telling you that this works this way, that way. Showing. I actually show you an example of how this is done. Maybe do a demonstration. And the third one is doing. This is when you, as the student, are actually trying it out yourself and you're doing something with your own hands or with your own laptop. And doing is best. So it's doing over showing and showing over telling. And yeah, this is something that we definitely do at Hamburg Coding School. So we try to do everything very hands-on, and most of the times it's the students actually doing the coding on their own laptop. And we follow a process that I picked up from Helder when he was teaching. He didn't know what he was doing, but I could derive a method from this. So first we show an example of how to do something. For example, how to use the color scheme CSS property to do the light theme, dark theme thing. And then we give hands-on exercises to the students. So now the students have to apply it to their website. And then you can go around the table and see how they are doing. And in this, like also in giving exercises and showing things, explaining things, how they work, this is super important. Because for you as the expert, you already have a very large mental model of the whole concept of what you want to teach, but the students don't. So for the students, the cognitive load is very high. For them, every step is something new, and students can't do many things at the same time. So you go very slowly, and you break it down into small steps, and then you go in baby steps, very small steps, one by one. And bonus points if you actually show the progress. So what I do in my classes usually, we have sessions of 3 hours, and on the whiteboard I put the topics of today. So we are going to do A, B, C, and if we have time, we are also going to do D. And during the class, I show them, like in the middle, if we do a break, okay, we have done A and B. We will have time for C, but I don't think we are going to make D. So they know exactly where they stand and what to expect from the training session. And this one is an interesting one, yes. So we had, so when our program at Hamburg Coding School started and we had the course module Node.js for the first time, I was sitting in class because I took notes to write down the outline of the whole thing. The first session, the teacher explained to the students how Node.js works, that it makes use of asynchronous programming, so it can handle multiple calls in parallel, and there's an event loop, but it's actually a single process, and he was like making a chart on the whiteboard and explaining this to the students. And it took like almost half of the session. And I bet with you that the students at the end of the session forgot about like how it worked. He could have just said, yeah, Node.js will be like a server, and there will be incoming calls, and the server then handles the calls, and it works like this, and show the code. So even though it might not be exactly like technically correct or technically the truth, it will help the students more if it's clear in the first place what they can expect. And this is something that I noticed especially Germans like to do. We want to be very truthful and very exact. But actually, in the beginning, especially if it's something that is a bit more complicated, like Node.js, it's better for the student if you leave a lot of details out and you give them a little yeah, call it a lie if you want, but so that it gets clear to them what this actually is and how they can work with it. And then maybe at the end of the whole course module, if there's time left, you can open the hood again and see in more detail how it works. So it's okay to oversimplify things. And your inner nerd that is telling you, this is not right, this is actually different, it's okay. You can always go into more detail later once the students learned the first high-level concept. Last not but least, this is about you being the teacher, also being the student. Being humble. So you probably know the feeling if you know something really well and you explain it to people and they look at you in awe and that feels great. If you use a lot of terminology and they don't understand it necessarily, it still feels great because you know it and they don't. But at this point, when you're teaching, you want your students to learn. And learning is an emotional process, and for that, the student needs to feel good about themselves. So it's about the student, it's not about the teacher. Yeah, appreciate how hard it is. Like for the students, all the small steps that feel easy for you because you already know it. For them, it's actually, yeah, quite hard. From my experience, I can tell you that if you teach students for a longer time and you see them actually understanding and getting better step by step, this actually feels much nicer than like being the expert. And also never stop learning yourself, because one thing none of us really learned is, for example, how to teach. So, I was talking a lot about the expert blind spot, that as soon as you are the expert, it's hard for you to put yourself into the student's shoes. And for overcoming the expert blind spot, we were looking at a very clear structure with problem, explanation, and the summary. We were looking at simple language, picking the students up where they are, the emotional process that the student needs to feel good about themselves, that doing is better than showing, and showing is better than telling, and that you do one thing at a time and go in baby steps, and never hesitate to sacrifice truth for clarity, and stay teachable yourself. And for staying teachable, I got some book recommendations for you. So this one is the one I learned from most. This is for college teachers. It's not exactly easy to read, but it has really great insights. Very scientific also, so really great book. This one is if you teach at your company and you want to train your colleagues in a certain topic. Love the title. And for teaching coding, I can recommend Teaching Tech Together. From this author is the quote, never hesitate to sacrifice truth for clarity. That's from him. the book is not printed anymore, but everything is available online at teachtogether.tech. Really great resource. It's available in English and in Spanish. Yeah, my name is Teresa. I'm the founder of Hamburg Coding School. I'm originally a software developer, and I teach coding now. Thank you.
Nice. I have to learn so much from you because I didn't let you know what we're doing today. But first of all, so we have Teresa, who already had her talk. Then right now, Jens is coming. And then afterwards, we have a fireside chat, so you can ask all the questions. And like you said, it's all about your own experiences. And you probably all have other reasons where you teach. So we want to have your questions as well for that, so we take more time. But if you have a question that cannot wait, you have one question now. One on. Okay, you can all wait for the fireside chat? Okay. Great, then thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have Jens coming up. We'll take a break or not? Oh, fine. Oh, you're good. Okay, no, we don't take a break. It's not too long. We take a break afterwards, like 10 or 15 minutes, and then we have the fireside chat. So Jens is the managing director of the Teach First Community, right?
Yeah.
But today he's also presenting the Hacker School, because he's the project manager of the course development, right? I can say it like this. And we also, as Social Developers Club, love to do things together with the Hacker School. And the last couple years, there was this thing called a pandemic, and we all went to virtual classrooms. And you probably know it's like kind of hard to inspire people in a virtual classroom, but we know now we'll learn from Jens how to do this. So welcome to the stage. Or maybe give him a minute to set everything up.
Yeah, thank you, Julia, for this welcoming talk. And you already said that I have kind of two roles. So, but today I'm here for the Hacker School. And I will tell you a little bit how we inspire for coding in a virtual classroom. And like Teresa did it, I also like to start with a question. So, what is coming up to your mind when you think of school, and when you think of school of a good teacher? I mean, Teresa was already like giving you some hints for that, but who was that? What kind of person was that? What is coming up to your mind? Like, just give me some words, keywords.
Someone who's super inspired by the topic.
Someone who's inspired by the topic. Nice. Anything else? Yeah.
Someone have look on the students or go in the shoes of the students.
Yeah, so pick the students up where they are. And that's what, like Teresa said. Yeah.
Someone who's funny.
Someone who's funny, yeah.
At the same time.
Okay.
I think also someone who have a relationship to the students.
Relationship to the students. Yeah, I think that already sums it up. For us, it is actually, we inspire, so it's actually someone who's really inspiring, who's someone who really is authentic, is a person who really, picks the students up where they are, really interacts with the classroom, also with the virtual classroom, really knowing, where they are actually. I won't go into details in that. First of all, I will later. First of all, what is the Hacker School? I have a few German slides in there, but like the main ones I translated. So our vision is that every young person should learn about programming before choosing a job. And that's a very big vision. And how do we do that? We work with schools. So it's actually a little bit different like the Hamburg Coding School, because they work with adults mainly, and also it's longer classes and lessons, but we only go into school once, so meaning virtual, it is 4 hours, and we then inspire the students, and then we go out again, so to say. So it's a little different setting. It's not like that we really can work with them for a longer period. Yeah, that's in German. We are already around 12 years old, but in the beginning the Hacker School was just a very small association, basically founded on in volunteering, so no one was paid for it. But then between 2017 and 2020, there were a few more people coming into the team, but it basically kicked off, like Julia said, with the pandemic, because then everything changed, and we changed from learning like the Hamburg Coding School does, in rooms, only in Hamburg, to virtual, to remote learning, and that basically opened us up to really do way more courses, and also to go into classrooms all around Germany. This is our goal, to really inspire 100,000 children until 2025. For now, we already reached, or until the end of 2022, we reached 25,000. So there's still a way to go, but we're on track, so to say. There's different formats. I won't go into details too much, because we're here for how does it work, actually. This is also German, but the main thing is actually 21st century skills, because in education, at the moment we talk a lot about the 21st century skills, and that's basically about the 4 C's. So what are the skills what we need in the future? And this is communication, this is collaboration, it's creativity, and it's critical thinking. And if this also comes along with making mistakes, and kind of what the things what Teresa said, and that's what we're focusing. But how does it work? I already said our mindset is we inspire, and now I will dive in a little bit closer. So like I said already, it's about the 21st century skills, and the W stands for win-win. You always have to jump in with the mindset, I'm also here for learning, like Teresa also said before. I also have to have the mindset there's actually students what I can also learn from. That actually means then you pick them up where they are, you're interested in them. Simply doing, einfach machen in German. You should just go and let them do. Don't be afraid of doing a mistake. And also what Teresa said, it was very interesting, with the don't hesitate. How did you say it? Don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate to sacrifice truth for clarity.
Thank you very much. And that's actually what einfach machen means. Simply do it. Then it's inspiration. You as a person really have to, like what you just said in the plenum, you have to be you and pick them up where they are. You have to be really authentic. Also talk about what you do. So make them eager to dive into the IT world. So that's basically Neugierde. It's Neugier. Have fun. Also enjoy what you're doing. And what we already said before, try it out, make mistakes, and don't hesitate to also not be perfectly on the truth all the time, because it's all about you, that you really... say it again, what was it?
Never hesitate to sacrifice truth for clarity.
For clarity. I was looking for clarity, yeah. Not be, hopefully it will last. And then also individual, we had that before, pick them up where they are. That's what I also said. It's about, I didn't say that before because we only jump in for 4 hours. It's also about orientation, what you do in your job after. So really tell them, what does it mean to code all the time? tell them what does it mean to be a software developer, that they really understand why are they doing this. So it's not very theoretical. It's not only the theory, but also tell them about the real world, so to say. And then, yeah, erleben, it's also what I said before. It's about inspiration, fun, and also celebrate the little wins, or not only the things what don't work. I just want to zoom in or jump in in a Zoom session. What we're doing with schools all around Germany, and this is just like the concept how we're doing it. So this is 4 hours, and in the beginning, it's very important that we actually do a little warm up, because we have to motivate the students and pick them up. I will jump into that here, and I want to show you that actually, not only talk about it. Who has heard from the app Kahoot? Okay, there's some, very good. So Kahoot is a very interactive app which is actually played in most schools around Germany nowadays. That's actually really good. Also the pandemic helped with that. And it really makes it very interactive, especially when you're virtual, because you need a mobile device or some device on you, and then the teacher has another device. Actually, if you're motivated, we can play that also after the little talk. All right, and that's what we start with. So they're already a little motivated, so there was some game, nice, so what's coming next? And then we jump into the breakout session. In the breakout session, there's always around 5 to 6 students with one inspirer. So we inspire, also our teachers are also called inspirer. And I mean, a class is around 25 to 30 students, so always depends a little bit. But mainly the breakout sessions are then divided so that there's only 5 to 6 in one group, so that we really have a focus group. But before we start to program, we actually have another little game, which is called Everyone Who, alle die in German. And it also concentrates on the personal relationship. Because like we said in the beginning, it's super important that the students really get to know you as an inspirer. And it's actually really, it's working really good with the camera, because it works like that you close your camera and you say, everyone who saw the sun today, please open up your camera. Then some students will open up the camera. And then you say, oh, okay, so where did you go? Where did you see the sun? And so on. And then you close the camera again and say, so who has ever coded before? And then some cameras might open. Often they don't, because most students haven't coded before. We're really focusing on the students which haven't coded before. Yeah, and in that way, you really very quickly build a personal relationship. And like we said, that's actually our main focus, because if there's no personal relationship, you can't inspire. And then after that, we start with the programming. And this is also a little bit, it's very, very nice actually, that first Teresa talk, because she gave a lot of, let's say, science input also with the books. And I'm more focusing on, so how do we actually do it in a virtual classroom? And we actually do it with 3 steps. So like you also said, always like do it in step by step, so in very small steps. So I just picked up an example in Python here. So we first start with, so what is the shell actually? What is the console? Okay, so this is that, and then here you program, and that's where you interact with the computer. And then we ask, so what is print? What is print actually doing, the print statement? We tell that, but we don't start really discussing it super, super long. Very quickly we then say, it's okay, now it's on you. Just also type it in your computer. Check it out. And then we're at step 3, a little transfer exercise, meaning instead of only print hello world, just now start to change the text a little bit and just see what happens. Okay, so there's not hello world, I'm just printing Teresa. Ah, okay, very interesting. Now it's on the shell, on the console. Okay, cool. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's actually working. And the cool thing is that from the very beginning, we inspire the students that they have some Erfolgserlebnisse. Thank you. Success moments. So from the very beginning, they have some success, and we figure that's super important because especially with students which haven't coded before. Oh no. Okay. Okay, we have to stop for a second. I'm very sorry about that. I thought it would work. Yeah, so the success moment. Do we have a plug-in here? Thank you. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so the success moment. Not a success at the moment, but that I will learn that I always plug in my computer before presenting. So the success moment is super important. So in my example in Python, we started with the shell and the print command. And the next step then would be to tell them, so what actually is a variable? So how does that work? So okay, I show you, so this is name equals whatever. Then they rewrite it again, they try it out, and then you give them another exercise and tell them, okay, so now just change the name. Change the name and name it whatever you want. Okay, check it out again, do it, try it, and then they have another success moment. And that's basically our concept of inspiring. So that's the phase we inspire. Okay, it's coming up again. Okay, wonderful. So the we inspire is over, so to say. We inspired them step by step. And that 3 steps, what I just told. You know what's happening. Everything is starting now. Okay. And then we have the break. In the break, it's super important because we're in a virtual classroom, we're in Zoom. So the students, they will go out on the courtyard because normally they're in school. So they just have a normal break, what they always would have also between maths and German or whatever. But for us, it's super important that the inspirer then come together in the main Zoom room because there's always a need to interact. To talk, so how was your group? So what was the problems today? Okay, today this class is like that. Yeah, and the students, they have some problems in that field. And okay, there's also some students which are not fluent in German. Okay, so maybe talk a little slower. I figured out that. Because it's super important because every class and every school is different. It's not always the same because students are also diverse in Germany. We work with like gymnasiums, we work with Stadtteilschulen here in Hamburg, so it's like the level is not that good like in gymnasiums, and that's why it's super important that the Inspire really like talk, so what's going on today? Is there anything important to know? Then after the break, super important that we get them in the mood of working again. We have another Kahoot quiz. So it's again not about warming up, it's actually then focusing on Python in that example, so that we really ask them, so what does print do? What is if else, for example? And then they already, again, have some success moments. Oh, cool, I learned something. I know what that is doing. And then we jump into the breakout sessions again. And then the game is flipping. So we then are not anymore in the we inspire phase, so that I, as an inspirer, tell you, as a student, what you have to do. Now it's about you, as a student, to inspire me. And we then ask them, so now we have something, you learned a little bit, so what is if else, what is a variable, what is a function, what is a while, or what is a for loop, and so on. And we then ask them, so are you motivated to actually program some little game? Like there's a very famous one, Schere, Stein, Papier in German. Are you motivated for that? Or are you very motivated to do a calculator? Yeah, that's the right word, right? Or are you more motivated to do some guessing of numbers? And then they can choose, because they had like through the 3 steps, they have the components to actually make their little project by themselves, to then inspire me as an inspirer. And this is then actually going on for another, 75 minutes in here, but normally it's around 60 minutes, because there's always some problems that they're not that motivated, there's always the time that they're not motivated anymore, and we always motivate the inspirer then also to talk about their jobs in that phase already, because it's about inspiration. So like I said in the very beginning, we want to inspire also to work in IT later, and that's why the close contact in groups of 5 to 6 is super important, that then Teresa, as a software developer, for example, can explain them what does it mean, what does it mean to work like that. And this is already then preparing the next phase, which is actually the jobs, and I will also show you how we're doing that. I have some examples here. For example, here, Aisha, she's studying at the 42 coding school, so we also have students, obviously, who inspire for us. And she says, oh yeah, I'm studying at the university where there's no teachers and professors, and I'm just doing projects. And then the students will, oh, okay, that's very interesting. So what does that mean, actually? So what do you do there? Or, for example, we have Chiara. She is a software developer and project leader, and she is leading projects. And she's saying, in school, there were only nerds doing computer science, and I was not very motivated to really do it. But then I jumped into it, and I figured it was actually super cool, and now I'm working in it. And in that way, as there is some gifts, that's always very, very fun for the students, they really start to ask, so what is that actually what you're doing? So how did you end up doing this job? And like I said in the beginning, it builds a relationship. It makes it very authentic and personal. Yeah, and that's basically it. We then end always with a feedback. Super important to ask them, how was it? What could we have done better? And that's how we inspire as Hacker School. And it's very similar like Teresa did it. I'm Jens. I'm Jens Becker. With Hacker School, I'm in charge of the concepts. So I'm developing them, and also of our team inspirer. We have some team inspirer who are always leading through that course. And if you have any more questions, just contact me on LinkedIn, or here's my email address, or I'm very happy to now discuss in the fireside talk, thank you, all the questions what you have. Thanks.
Nice, thank you so much. What? Break. Yes. We will take a little break now. So I would say like 10 to 15 minutes. Get to know each other. The bathroom is in the back. We're probably going to set up some drinks and refill the water. And then we see each other back here for the fireside chat. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
So, hello everyone, welcome back. As mentioned before, we're going to have a fireside chat now. My name is Sabrina, I'm going to moderate that a bit. I hope you all had a drink, and I already saw some people asking some questions, but I hope you still have some questions left for now. Does anyone not know what a fireside chat is? Okay, great. Right. So, first of all, we have a fireside, of course, and then we just chat. Great. Just to summarize it. No, but basically, it's just about a comfortable situation where we can all ask questions and talk and like getting a bit like deeper into the topics we just heard about. So feel free to ask a lot of questions. Also, to like you don't have to raise your hand, but of course, we're a lot of people. It helps if you like want to say something while someone else is talking. But if you have a question immediately, feel free to ask it right away. Okay? Yes. So just to break the ice a bit, I will start with a question. So you still have time to think about questions. Yes. So thank you first of all, Jens and Teresa, for the great talks and to give us some insights about teaching code. Also from different perspectives, which was really interesting to see like the online version and also teaching children and young people, but also like having the offline version, like the one that is teaching actually in a room, in a space, in a safe space, and also for adults for a longer period of time. So there was something, Teresa, you said, and I hope you don't hate me after asking this, about the expert knowledge. You called it, let me just check it, it was the expert blind spot, right? And one tip you gave us was to not to use acronyms, right? And to explain it like to a 5 years old. Okay, so Basta, I know you're a good experienced developer, so you gave us a little example about CSS, which is an acronym, right? So here's my first question. Can you explain us what CSS is, and can you explain it like how you would explain it to a 5 years old?
Okay, I'm gonna try. So CSS, the acronym, stands for Cascading Style Sheets.
Ooh.
And you don't need to know what that means. But the word style in it is important because CSS is what makes a website look pretty. So all the colors, all the look of the website is made with the coding language CSS.
Perfect, thank you. So, good insight for the first start, and a good example of a good teacher, which you both talked about. Well, you talked about inspires, but they are also teachers, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, what did you do actually to find good inspirers for the higher school?
I probably
You have
can
your own.
talk into that, okay. Actually that's good that you asked that because I didn't go into detail, but I was very happy that someone was approaching me just 10 minutes ago who was actually an inspirer for us 2-3 years ago, something like that. And for us, it's on a voluntary base. So we're approaching companies, basically then the departments where the IT people are. So we asked them, is there someone who's interested in teaching code and in inspiring students? That's one part, and the other part is actually ask you. So are you motivated? Do you have some spare time to actually share your expertise, your motivation to code, your knowledge all about coding? Yeah, and that's what we actually do on all kind of channels.
Oh, great. So,
And focus on companies at the moment. Yeah.
perfect. So we have a question here. I pass that to Julia. Also, if I pass the microphone to you, or if you speak, if you like, please say your name. You don't have to, but.
Hello, I'm Julia. Thank you. I saw a question for Jens. I saw you have a girls' hacker school now. What is the difference in teaching girls from teaching boys or mixed classes?
Yeah, a good question. That actually focused the first slide where there was different formats. And one format is the girls' hacker school. Yeah, basically that's focusing the problem in Germany that we don't have many girls in MINT subjects, so in computer science and general and technical stuff. And if I look around here, this also proves this thesis. There's not too many girls around, and that's why we're focusing. It's a good example. Actually, on Thursday there's Girls' Day in Germany. And Girls' Day is actually a day where girls can go in typical jobs or in typical parts where there's only boys or where there's only men working. And that's a perfect spot for us to then also inspire for code, for hacker, like doing our formats, but only with girls. And now your question in concepts, it's, yeah, in school it's actually like that girls, they react to tech stuff a little differently, like boys, and that's why our concepts are a little different. CSS was actually a perfect example for that, because for girls, they are more creative and often, and they don't like Python, for example, if they can program a little number game. That's right. You're completely right. Yeah.
You need to catch them at the first
Exactly. You
part,
catch them at the
then-
first part, and then over that you then also tell them. But it's not a problem. You can also go dig into numbers. You can also all do that, but you need a different start. So
Yeah, it's
thank you very much.
easier to get in, like when you see it's not like a miracle you're doing that. You just
Exactly.
and from CSS and from building websites, you often have a result immediately.
That's it.
Right? And then
Exactly,
It
and-
feels like more you have the output, and like what you said, you're learning step by step. And then when you feel like you had a little bit of success, that's what you told us about, like the way the brain works, it's probably easier to keep going.
Thank you very much for focusing that. And yeah, probably it was because of English I couldn't express myself. I didn't want to tell that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it's more about how you approach them, like in the first step.
So, Teresa, I know a lot of developers who are coming from the Hamburg Coding School, and they are huge fans of it, and I'm fans of them as well. So, talking about Girls Hacker School now and about diversity, I know you are also addressing a lot of female developers, or the ones who want to become ones. And you also told us about how it's important to inspire them, like when you're talking and you're teaching, and also being present as someone who's actually working in the IT field. So what do you do, like, to address more female developers, or maybe also how is it for you as a founder, like, to actually scale everything and to basically work on the diversity topic in that field?
So at Hamburg Coding School, there are two things we do. One is we try to have a very friendly learning environment. We keep the classes super small, so it's 8 students at max. And this has the advantage that people feel more at ease in the classroom. They tend to ask more questions than in larger groups and tend to be more active, like with talking to each other in discussion. And also the teacher is playing a role, like how friendly they are. And yeah, we say this when we onboard new teachers, so this is important to us, that the atmosphere is very friendly, very welcoming. And I think this is one reason why we get so many women in our school. We have a rough ratio of 50-50, which I'm very happy about. And the other thing is what I'm doing basically. So I try to do events like this and speak and show other women who are interested in this field that it's possible and there are other women who are successful. And I do that even though speaking is not natural to me, so I'm always a bit nervous before events, but I try to do my best and I try to show to other people there are women developers and there are women founders. And I hope to show them they're doing a good job.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions right now? I will always ask that again, but you can just like interrupt if you have one.
Yes.
Yes, over there.
No, I don't hear.
But just repeat.
I'm a non-techie person, and I tried in the past several times to find some interest in coding. Without success, I didn't find it. That's why I'm here, because I would like to use the opportunity being surrounded by so many techies. Do you have any advice for me? How can I approach coding language to learn? How would you do it if you have no experience at all? How did you find your interest in coding? Did you read a manual, or did you have a project in mind, or how did you do it?
Okay, I quickly repeat the questions. So we have someone here who basically is interested in coding but couldn't really get inspired or didn't start yet but tried before. So now the question is, how can he come or get into coding, and how did the others here and also the speakers we have here like get motivated to start coding, and also like what language did you choose at the beginning? It was kind of that direction as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Teresa, Jens, do you have an idea?
I would give actually the question to the crowd because
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Good
it's
idea. I was pointing to the crowd.
So, what's your technical background?
I don't have any.
Okay, but you consider yourself to be a techie?
No.
Right? No. Okay. So I think what is important is that you find something where the barrier is fairly low, right? So maybe you're interested in, I don't know, bikes or cats or something like that, and then finding a project that you use to actually solve some problem, either than just picking up a, so it depends on like what type of learner you are, right? So if you're someone who learns with books, then probably maybe pick up a programming book, but if you're someone who rather works like on practical problems, then find a practical solvable problem, like, I don't know, something to, I don't know, simulate a bike or whatever, right? And then find it doesn't really matter with which programming language you really start. Maybe don't choose assembler, but rather choose maybe choose something like Python or Java, and then solve that problem, and then learn along the way. So that's what I would say. So solving a problem that you are interested in is probably one way of learning a language.
I also wanted to say that you need to have some pain, and then you can fight with pain with dopamine, as we were told today. So it's totally useless to just pick up one certain thing and do it for nothing, because you will forget it, because there's no need. First you need to have the pain. Yeah, for example, you need to check your bank account every month and have to calculate, I don't know, how much you spend on Coke, Coca-Cola.
Okay, that's so much.
And yeah, for example, to me it was like I was working as a project manager in a translation agency, and we got from our customer also an Excel file where in column 1 was source target, and then the other columns there were the other languages that needed to be adapted, but sometimes there were some sets that should not be entered with text, and it took me ages. And so I started, for example, learning with Excel just in the beginning, and then further on I chose some other ways, because we found out that we didn't get this from an Excel but from a VSV file, and the VSV file you can work on that with other tools. And so to me it was like spending, I don't know, 30 minutes each day, and this was a job of, I don't know, €5 or something. Yeah? So it was burning money all the time, and when you act too often the same way, like a machine, you just make errors. So when I got rid of the pain, I thought, okay, now the adrenaline rush is coming, and it's getting easier, and so this is my point of success, my moment of success, and so I felt that it's not only a very theoretical thing, but a very practical thing. Yeah, just like practical, like when my grandmother, she's like 400 meters away, she can send me an image via WhatsApp. Actually, very nerdy stuff to have such a thing like a computer in a very small format, and she can take pictures with it and send me photos or something, or I don't know what. So it's a very, this is a transition of very theoretical stuff into a solution, if you want to. Yeah. So first of all, you need to look for your pain, and then you can type on Google or something, or ask somebody and find a way to solve this way. And this is the only thing when you grab something and you get the dopamine rush to learn by heart.
So what made you want to start coding in the first place? If you have no background in tech. Well, I was wondering why I didn't find my interest in coding, although it's a language. And I earn money with writing, which is a language, but I'm writing words and not code. And I thought, why? It's a language, but I'm not interested in it. What's bothering me? That's interesting, because I don't see coding as a language problem, really. As writing text. I see it as a form of problem solving, which I don't think, I wouldn't say writing is problem solving usually, except for the problem of having to write something. But that's when I want to write a paragraph, I don't think, oh, this is my problem, and I can have this procedure to solve it. And that's what programming is a lot, is having a very concrete problem and figuring out the solution. Already saying it when you wrote it. Yeah, it's a different kind of thinking. Yes, not that there's no creativity involved, but to me those are very different activities. Thank you.
Okay, we have two more questions. So just to get everyone on board right now, it was a bit about like getting, like what was the solution to get involved into coding. So one thing was like find a problem and try to solve it, because if you want to solve that problem, you will like dig deeper into the coding languages and maybe like find one that is maybe having lower barriers, start with this one and then learn this one first and try to solve this one problem, so you have like the dopamine, the success in the end, hopefully, and then keep going. And the other question was like, which is maybe more like a whole new meetup, like is coding, programming actually a language topic, or is it more like only about the logic part? So we have two more questions, which I will quickly address. Like we start in the back because I saw your hand first, and then we go to the...
Just a second.
It's coming.
Yeah, I was so hoping for that. Thank you, Julia.
Actually, it wasn't a question, it was, I wanted just to give them my opinion about what has been said before.
Perfect.
So, to be honest, I'm not really in favor of project-based like learning, because just like for a beginner, if I give an example of JavaScript, like let's say a beginner wants to learn JavaScript and he or she goes to a website where there's like a project, and generally we give like a calculator project. And I think for someone who has never coded JavaScript, it can be insanely hard, because you have to think of HTML and CSS and interactivity and etc. So if I can like modestly give an advice for someone who wants to learn like from scratch, I really like the small YouTube videos, like the 2-3 minutes YouTube videos. It's super short, you get one information, you're not like overloaded, and if you watch like one video like now and then like absorb the information, try it out, and then another video of 2-3 minutes max, I think it's really useful, because like now what I see, like many people, those on YouTube, and there is like this kind of like workshop tutorials of 11 hours, 12 hours. Yeah, it can be like, it's a lot. Like I think more for a beginner, 2-3 minutes videos are really good. And yeah, it's like my more experience.
There was another question, or like a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I think like the key is really to have a relationship with coding. And it's difficult if you don't know what you want to do. So my honest recommendation would be to look for someone to mentor you. Actually, maybe the coding school is a place to do that. Because like the hardest part about coding is really to stick to it. You can like imagine it to be like learning an instrument or something. You will have to put effort in it. You will have to like repeat stuff, think about stuff, change like, you know, the way you think about stuff. And the way how I got into it was like at the beginning with video games when I was a child, but it was also like very like I quit it often. Like I got into programming like multiple times. And the one time where I decided to stick to it was when I was like 18 years old and participated in a social service in West Africa. I was like sitting there, it was like light out, and I was on my phone, and like one of my friends was like, so you don't want to become a coder, because at that point, at that time, I was deciding to become a lawyer. And my friend responded with, so you are going to forget everything I teach you. And I was like, actually maybe he's right. Maybe I already started with programming. Maybe I should like give it one more try, one last time. So I decided to, okay, I give myself like half a year time to learn C++ and to see where it brings me. And if I feel like I could survive computer science studies, I would go that route. And this is like very emotional. Like, you know, yeah, you need someone, you need a reason to stick to it. This is the most difficult thing in my opinion. And a good teacher might be a good starting point.
Thank you very much. I think besides a teacher, like the story you just told, there's one thing that also can someone keep going, which is like having a community which is learning with you. Like everyone was describing a bit of different situations, like there's the one you go to university and you have your people there who are learning the same things. There's also one person here in this room I've learned programming with. He's in the back. So we were a small community, like helping each other, having regular meetings, like going through one program where we got teach programming actually, but we like supported each other, could ask questions, and even when someone felt like I had enough, I give up, then someone else comes up with a solution and explains it. Like it was really good to have someone to rely on and who's going through the same feelings. I don't want to say pain because there were a lot of good feelings too, like you explained as well. But it's the same like the way you're teaching actually. Like there are boot camps, there are schools, there are actually different programs or courses and workshops like the one you also offer. And I feel like the community sense there is like making big sense here. So I think this is also one thing. So coming to that point. The question here is, you said you're going into schools and also like having virtual workshops. How do you like make it happen, or how do you like create that small kind of community in that short period of time you have in these workshops, so they can like work together and have this feeling of actually supporting each other?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, the community point is actually a really good one. I was also thinking of that you have to, if you have the project, it's very hard if you have to do it all alone, but the community is super important. Yeah, how do we get there in school? Actually, it's already the setting, because when everyone has a computer or a tablet in school and can code on her own, or with someone else together, like sitting next to each other, this is a complete different environment, and complete different atmosphere of learning. And that's why already that sets up this atmosphere, and you don't have to do much. It's already, because normally school is completely different. It's not a setting what they're used to, at least in standard schools. I mean, there are schools, but it's not the common case. And I think that's already the answer. We just do it, and it's already, it's different, like everyday life in school, and that already brings that atmosphere. Yeah.
And I give it back to you now.
Yeah.
So one is basically like, I mean, there's a big difference between teaching adults and young people. So in that kind of situation where you have a group of young people, how do you actually motivate them and keep them focused? And what, like, because in my perspective, we also give workshops to younger people. It can't happen that they switch to other browser tabs and look at this game. So it should be a fun atmosphere, but at the same time, it's important, I think, to keep the group together and to keep everyone working close. So how do you create that kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, like I said before, it's all about personal relationship, and it's all about like being authentic and being you, because students, they will realize from the very first second if you're not you, if you're some other person, if you're not authentic, they won't listen to you, and that's why it's super like important to be you. And also, yeah, I mean, there's always parts where they're not listening and where they're doing something else, and it's utopia that it's not happening, and you just have to lead them at some point. It's just like that, and it's always and it's also like utopia that you can reach 100%. There's always like a few which you can't reach, and it's just like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, Teresa, from the other perspective, teaching adults, there are different difficulties here which come together when someone starts joining the field of tech, when like there are two steps actually, like deciding to go there and then sticking to it while learning it. So what do you think are these kind of difficulties? What's like the difference, if you have experience with that, then in teaching adults than children? And what are like their own, like we had like this question right now, what are their own doubts in starting the program? What are the things you hear?
Yeah, great question. In terms of the motivation, so the students at Hamburg Coding School usually pay for the course themselves. So they are highly invested. They know they have gone through some consultation in the beginning, so they know it's going to be hard, it's going to be 6 months, but they really want it. They paid a lot of money for it, and they usually stick to it until the end, right? So we usually don't have a problem there. But there's a huge difference in how people learn in their age. So, because you asked earlier about women and men, we don't see so much of a difference there. But we see a difference in young people versus older people.
Yes, exactly.
I had a student who was 17 years old. His mom signed the contract and everything, so that was fine. At the same time, we sometimes have students who are like 40, 50 years old. These are outliers, so our usually group is between 25 and 35. So that's our usual target group, the age of people. And you can really see the older someone is, the harder it gets for them to get into coding. So usually young people, the student that I had, Tavi was his name, he was super quick in picking things up, and sometimes he wasn't even listening to me, but he was coding, figuring things out by himself, and then he was done. It was like super quick how he understood things, and he was like pulling information out of the internet and out of thin air, I say. Whereas older people usually need much more assistance, they need smaller steps, and sometimes you have situations where someone already has like a concept about how something should be or is, and then you need to explain to them that it's different, and you need to write your commands in this field and your CSS code in this file and your HTML in that. And that's sometimes difficult for some people to get around and navigate that in the beginning. So I usually find it much easier to teach kids, because they kind of come to me, get their information, and they, for hours they can do by themselves. And for older people, they need much more assistance. We need to help them along the way much more usually.
I'd like to add something. Yeah, I'd like to add something to that. Also, focusing the question you asked me before, and this is actually the special thing about coding with kids in school, that they can do, that they can just try out, they can do what kind of not ever they want, but basically they can, because in the Inspire Me phase they can, and that is completely different, like the normal subjects or normal school what they're having, and that makes already this special atmosphere. And this is like you're also pointing on it, this is the speciality with kids. They just do. Often they don't listen to you, they just try it out.
They go well enough.
Exactly.
So, like, just one thing to add. I think, just to like what you say, it's not that you should sit here now and think, oh, I'm too old to learn coding. So we also gave workshops to older and younger people, and mostly it's about younger people are not that afraid to make mistakes. They just do, because they know they learn, and they just, if it's wrong, they just do it again or they do it differently, and they do not care as much as older people who got taught and learned in their life to ask questions and to rethink. They often are more afraid of doing mistakes, also because they start with something new at a later stage in their life. So we have a question.
Yeah, hi, I'm Katarina, and I have a question to both of you. I'm very curious about if you have an onboarding process for your teachers or for your inspirers, because it's, you also have to learn teaching, and how do you do that? How do you have to do that?
So we have an onboarding process where we tell the teachers like what we value in teaching. We tell them about this clarity thing and the expert blind spot, and that it's like being able to explain complicated things in a clear way is like the talent that we are looking for. And what we do then is we give them a guide, like it's both a human and a document. So there's our head teacher, Helder, who is assisting the teachers, especially when they're new. And then they get this document where they have like tips about didactics, how to teach. And before someone can start at the coding school, we have them teach a test course. So this is one evening, 1 to 2 hours, where they teach a topic of their choice. We get some test participants, and this is for us to see how bad their blind spot is. So how talented are they in communicating clearly? How talented are they in explaining things? This is what we want to see, because we get quite some applications from senior software developers, but senior software developers not always make good teachers. It's quite the opposite. The better someone is, the harder it is for them to communicate clearly. But if they pass the test course, then they are usually awesome teachers.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted to ask you that question about the senior developers. If you have to be a senior to teach in your coding school. So for the hacker school, the onboarding for the inspirers.
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Yeah, for the hacker school, it's a little different, as we're not a school with professional teachers. We have some in the room who are already inspiring our students. And we have a classical onboarding hour every Tuesday, actually, just at that time. Oh no, it's 6:30 to 7:30 actually. And then we have some best practice community calls where you can actually spare and share your experience with other inspirers. And we're also scaling on that a little bit at the moment, because basically everyone could join before and there was not too much of onboarding. It was basically, okay, so this is our concept, that's how we do it, and here's the Zoom link, or here's the location where you come, and then you can basically do whatever you want in that in this setting. And now when I'm pointing on we inspire me, you're basically free what you then do in there. I mean, you start with Python, but then if you want to end up with tic-tac-toe or whatever kind of game, you just introduce some other components in the beginning. And it's on you. You can decide in the end. And for us, the concept is more like we enable the people to just try themselves out and also make mistakes and just give it a go, because it's students. And students, they don't mind if you do mistakes or if it's not working perfectly. You can just try it and work with them. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know if you want to add as an inspirer, how was it for you?
I started working with Hacker School like 2019. There was no real onboarding process at that time. But what I did, back in the days, it was like they had like this name. Okay, going to start again. So I started working with Hacker School in 2019, and they didn't have like the onboarding at that time. But they always had like the main inspirer, which is like giving the course, and then there's co-inspirers, like other teachers that are just there to help the kids out, but not like they're not really responsible for the class. And I started out 2 times as co-inspirer, just being there, seeing how other people do it, and just talking to kids and getting a feeling of it. And that helped a lot. And like the third time I worked with the school, I was the main inspirer, and I produced the concept for the class, and everything works out pretty fine. And they're kids. They are forgiving, and normally they're doing something that's fun and they're having a good time. So even if something gets wrong, it's not a big problem.
Yeah, very good that you mentioned the core inspirers. Actually, you're not alone all the time. There's always, now we call them team inspirer. There's inspirer, which are actually students who are computer science students, and they have, let's say, they are the main inspirers in the course. And if you have problems or something doesn't work, you can always ask them. And like you also mentioned, before you do a class, there's always the possibility of being a trial inspirer, to just try it out and see how it's going. Yeah, thanks.
So, answer? Thank you. And having Katharina here, it reminded me of something. If you never tried out teaching to code, the Code Week is coming up in October, so maybe this is a nice way of giving a workshop with that. Can I get the next question?
Yes, perfect.
I just have a really simple question to both of you, and it is like, do you prefer to teach or organize courses in German or in English? Because I'm not a native English speaker myself, but I found the English language really, really efficient and compact when teaching programming. I mean, in terms of like saying something simply, I think it's the best language. Although, again, I'm not a big fan of English for poems or anything else. But for programming, I think it's the best language. So what are your preferences in this area?
Yeah, for us it's simple, it's only German because we are in schools. But I also see this opportunity actually, because at the same time you can teach English with Python, for example, or any other programming language also. So my vision actually is that all the computer science classes in school should be in English from the very beginning, because it's super easy that you can learn two things at the same time, or even more.
Now I'm curious to hear what Teresa says, because I think it's going in another direction. Let's see.
Yeah, the opposite. So
yeah, nice, very good.
We teach in English. Our head teacher, for example, is from Portugal and he doesn't speak much German, so his classes are always in English. It's only like English is always the default. Just if there's a situation where all of the students are Germans and the teacher is also German, then we speak German, of course. From my experience, I find it actually also a bit easier to teach in English, because all of the documentation that you read, all of the videos that you watch, it's all in English. And getting this into German can be hard sometimes, because you need to think about, okay, which of these terms do I translate, and you end up with a mix of German and English. That is fun. Yeah, no, English.
That's actually also what I thought, because it just happened that I read a documentation. I used to read it in English, and now they translated that to German, and I thought I'm on the wrong page. Actually, I didn't get a word. I had to switch back to English. But also, you're doing code review and all of documentation, things like that later, often in English, so it totally makes sense to already start in English. And you get better in it. Okay. Yeah, speaking about teaching, you told us that you did this talk today because you started to teach yourself teaching. So in when situation did you sit down or stood up and said to yourself, okay, I want to get more into teaching? I'm curious about like what made you go that step, and how was it for you to walk down this road?
So are you asking about like my inspiration, or?
Yeah, like what was your motivation, or what was the point in time when you said, now I want to go more into teaching rather than just being a software developer?
Okay. Well, due to my experience at university, where I had a lot of classes that were bad teaching, I was always thinking like, how could you make it better? I mean, when I was studying for so many topics, so much theoretical knowledge, and I had a student job where I did some programming, and I always had the feeling if I need to study for exams, then that actually keeps me from learning the skills that I will actually use. So I was always wondering, like, what makes a good teacher, and how can we like get this knowledge more efficient than it's taught at the university? And when I was working as a software developer, we had a situation where at work we were using a new library called RxJava for Android app development. And we needed to find out from the documentation how it works. We were looking at some tutorials. We had the feeling, okay, we kind of know how to use it. We started implementing the app. And then we got a workshop at the company where we were taught how to do RxJava. Mm-hmm. And it was like one afternoon, 3 hours, where the instructor was sitting down with us, with our code on the big screen, and he was going through it, and we were coding in our code, and he showed us, with RxJava, you can make this and this and this much easier, and then you can also do this, and suddenly it's much more clearer. And it was like, wow, this one afternoon is like, compared to what we knew before and what we learned here, it was like 2080. And that was the moment for me when I realized, okay, teaching in a small group with the same code base is actually much more efficient than my experience at university. And when I started teaching, I realized, okay, wow, Helda is so good at teaching, I kind of suck at teaching, so what is Helda doing, what I'm not doing? And I got curious about this. Helda couldn't explain it, so I started looking into books and online resources and figured some things out along the way.
Perfect. So that was the problem you wanted to solve, and also the experience with the hands-on experience, like you had. Okay. So we're coming closer to the end. So we have 2 questions over there. Julian, could you pass them on? Thank you. Long way to go.
Was there a good question?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe just from my perspective, because I teach quite occasionally, and what my motivation was when you start teaching, you really need to understand what you're talking about. You're digging deeper into the stuff, and you're not just using it, but you understand why things are the way they are. So, and my motivation was to get a better program for this, and it really worked out in the end. And you learn to think about stuff you use for like years in different ways, and to simplify stuff and getting better at your craft. Actually, this was my motivation, no doubt. And also, what I didn't expect in the first place was I'm really getting better in communicating about my work in the team and in collaboration, because I get better into talking about code, which is something you have to learn actually. So this kind of intrinsic, getting better with your work is what motivates you to start teaching.
Thank you for your insight.
So I read a paper recently that's fairly old. It's from the late 2000s, so I don't know how accurate this is today, but it tracks with my experience. And the premise was that programming or coding specifically is disproportionately difficult to learn. That, like, they did a survey of colleges, and they found out that people failed disproportionately often. It didn't correlate to any aspect of the students, not their general educational background, not their grades in other subjects, nor their general problem-solving ability. And as people who teach to code, I was wondering if you had a theory as to why that might be, because no one really knows.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory, but I don't have any scientific proof. But coming back from school, at least the German education system is really based on, like Teresa started in the very beginning, that there's someone in front who's telling you what to do, and it's basically about telling, and it's not about doing. But in coding, doing is much more important. And I remember I was here the last time in the Diele, it was the end of January, and Teresa talked about component skills and integration in coding. And the components is the technical stuff, so how does it work, what is all that, blah, blah, blah. But the integration is the doing, the trying it out. And that's actually way more, it's like you said, 60% I think of the time. Or
you should spend more time practicing integration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so more time than just learning the components. And I think at least in our education system, it's the other way around. It's not about the integration phase. The it's about the components only. Like we have all the subjects, we have to learn that, and so on, but not the integration. And that would be my theory. I don't have any scientific proof, but yeah, maybe we should dig into that.
So you think that's especially important with programming? Because we
Yeah,
don't
and
do
that,
that for everything.
yeah, exactly, and that's why it doesn't work, because you in school you're erased or educated differently, and it's not the way you should learn coding. Yeah.
Thank you. You have something to
I think that's super interesting, and I
Yeah.
want to look into that study. My guess, so my gut feeling why programming is harder to teach or to learn is that one, it's highly virtual. So you talk to a machine. A programming language is making the machine understand and do the things you want it to do. And it has a lot of things to do, like with virtual logical things, and you need to keep that into your mind and have like a mind map in your brain about the things you want to do. And getting there takes a lot of time and a lot of experience, and is really hard. And yeah, on the other hand, I think it has to do a lot with thought patterns. I think this learning how to think like a programmer, learning to think in these logic structures, is something that is kind of alien to us humans. I mean, we're capable of doing this, but we need to learn it first, and it's kind of learning a language because it has some language aspects, but then you don't use it as a language to talk to other people, but as something that stays virtual and stays with the machine. So that's my guess why it's probably quite hard.
Thank you very much. So,
I also just wanted to thank you for the question, that study. That's a super interesting one, and I already started thinking about it. Yeah, just to add that. Yeah, thanks.
so you need to share the link
Yeah,
on the paper.
yeah.
Yeah, he actually, like, they rescinded the paper. The guy who wrote it did it while he was manically depressive. So the results of the paper apparently aren't great, but the premise, I think, still holds.
Yeah.
Well, but it still gives some insights, as I think so.
It's fauna, I think you can
Yeah.
use fauna if you want to look it up.
So I gotta ask, do we still have time?
Can you have like 5 more minutes? Is it okay? Yeah? Okay. Then maybe yes. You have a question,
I
right?
have a question, yes.
Wait.
I'm curious about, do you teach in your courses how transistors work, or like the low-level stuff, how that works? No.
We don't.
You can just say no.
Yeah, no, we don't. Simple answer.
We also don't.
And why is that? Aren't people curious? So you spoke about like that it's virtual, right? There's so many abstraction layers between programming and what happens on the system. But aren't like children curious about this? Like how what happens?
I'm sure we're curious about it.
Yeah. You want to first? Yeah.
So from our adult perspective, teaching adults
Yeah.
generally, we don't teach it because it's a very difficult topic, and for it to teach it in a very short period, like for us it's 6 months, making people job ready, it's like insanely short of a time. So you basically just scratch the surface, and for it to be like super effective in that short of time, you need to have a very practical approach. That means it needs to be very hands-on. People need to do first before they like open the hood and see what's below. So we usually don't touch topics like encoding. We don't do that. We don't go like in lower levels, even of like the internet, you know, what is happening on the lower levels, we skip. Because first they need to do something, and then with doing one step at a time, they discover more things to do, and first they become software developers who can write the software. And I think only with experience, if they know more about the concepts that are going on, will they be able to understand like other things that are going on a much lower level, or on the electronic level.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's actually turning around what you do like in university, like
Yeah.
starting from that
Right.
perspective probably, then rather just doing hands-on, getting ready to actually know how to do it, and then digging deeper into why actually.
Yeah, for us it's very similar, the answer actually, and I mean we are only in schools for 4 hours in a virtual classroom, and then when it's on the weekend, it's for 2 days, 2 times 4 hours, so it's 8 hours, and that's just the start, so it's just not too much time, it's not enough time, but we have enough space and room for questions actually. So when there is this question, then we motivate, or then our inspirers should motivate them to dig into that after our class. So what actually then comes is that we then tell them, okay, so here, then go to this website, or go there, or like here's a good class, like continue.
Book called Code is amazing for lower level stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We have like, it's called Weg in the IT, so there's way into IT, it's a huge list where they can continue. And then what I also want to add is a reality check, that in school, we just talk about the very, very basics, and today, like, just interacting with the keyboard, like properly typing, is a super big problem. Like Steuerung C and copying and all that, it's just not known. And we have to cope with that, with these kind of problems. And we're already super happy if these things work, and if questions like that would arise, we would be like, wow, 100% fulfilled our aim of inspiring. Yeah, but the sad story is reality check. It's so low level starting, so to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A lot of questions, a lot of inspiring things and insights. We will start now with our fireside and also with our chat. So feel free to ask more questions later on. You can also send us messages or reach out to them personally, but also right now, if you're quick enough before the doors close. And thanks to everyone who joined virtually. And yes,